Our tax system is stealing from you. People around the world who accept the tax situation as it currently is literally just a case of a dog who's been beaten so much that it now rolls over and accepts its next beating. Taxation is theft in the way it is currently done. There's no getting around that. This is straight up theft. This is pickpocketing. If you're not a millionaire, there is no reason why you should be a taxpayer. The tax rules should be insanely simple and brutal on the government. Stop accepting this as normal. Look at what you're seeing on the screen here. This is the UK income tax, and this is bearing in mind that this is just one tax out of several that the government push on the population. You've got income tax, you've got capital gains tax, you've got interest tax, you've got national insurance contributions. I mean, Jesus Christ, what are they going to do next? Just look at these figures on your screen here and see how absolutely absurd it is that you lot accept this as normal. You get £242 a week on your income tax allowance before you start getting taxed. 242 quid a week, what's that going to get you? That's going to get you no investment opportunities whatsoever, or almost no investment opportunities whatsoever, as you can see from my rather measly and pathetic investment portfolio, mainly caused by the tax system that rinses out my income. Pretty much about 70 to 80% of the money that should be going into building your wealth fair and square is literally just being channeled into degenerates at the upper echelons of society. You're literally a prisoner being given pocket change to spend at the prison shop. And then if we look at the higher rates among higher income earners, this is even more ridiculous. It kneecaps anyone from quickly reaching retirement, forcing you to work forever for no other reason than greed. The more you look at the tax system and the more you look at these tax bans and these tax rates, the more you just get absolutely fucking furious. So what should the solution be? Well, obviously the solution is that we get these crooks out of government and put some decent people in there who are going to be receptive to what I'm about to demonstrate here. This is my North FC Investing simple as divine and heavily taxed solution for the government. Now, obviously, the government as it currently stands is not going to put this in place because why would they? They're currently pickpocketing about 70% of your entire wealth and you're just allowing them to do it. So why on God's earth would they ever stop that? This is for when we get a decent government in, a decent small state government who is going to leave us alone and is happy to do something like this. The solution is very simple. We have only one tax. All these ridiculous taxes that the government and the aristocracy have come up with over the centuries, all of them should be abolished and replaced with one tax. That includes national insurance contributions, that includes income tax, that includes capital gains, interest tax. All of that should be completely abolished because it's absurd. You should only pay one tax, and it should only be at 20% for anyone with a UK residency with a global net worth over £2 million. That would basically put 99% of the population out of being a taxpayer completely. 99% of the population would not pay any tax on anything. And then the 1% of the population who do have a net worth above £2 million would pay 20% in tax. And I did a bit of napkin math on this. At the current UK population and 1% of that with their above £2 million net worth, if you tax that at 20%, the government would get roughly £272 billion in tax annually. Now think about that. £272 billion with a B. Why on earth could the government ever need any more than that? That is a perfectly reasonable amount to run the country as a small government. At the moment, the government is currently raking in £1.1 trillion every year in tax revenue. What the actual fuck are they using that money for? About 80% of that money is not going into the country. It's not going into making people's lives better. 80% or even 90% of that 1.1 trillion will be going into the pockets of the Davos elites and the World Economic Forum. It'll be going into funding wars in Israel that we never asked for. It'll be going into funding a civil service that actively hates us and wants to kill us. This whole system is ridiculous, and the government should only be allowed to get around 250 billion in tax annually. And that's a conservative estimate, by the way. If a sizable proportion of that percentage of the population who are above 2 million in net worth are earning way more, and they have, say, a net worth of 10 million, that figure could easily jump up to 300 billion or 350 billion. And you'll say, well, don't you think the rich people will just run away from the UK if this is the case? No, because what this would do is having your only taxpayer base be the top 1%, it would encourage the government to make the country a nice place to live for rich people. So it would incentivize the government to make the infrastructure work well, to make all the systems work well, to make the UK in general just an attractive place to live for anyone who's got enough money to go wherever the fuck they want in the world. Now, why have I put the number at £2 million net worth? The simple answer to that is go and look at my Live Like You Are a Poor Person video. And in that video, I explain that 2 million really is the magic number where you unlock infinite wealth in the markets gaining interest. You know, at £2 million, that is enough to buy a very, very nice house for you and your family, and for you and your family to live entirely off of interest payments from extremely safe bonds and gilts for the rest of your life without having to do any work. So, as I explained in my Live Like You Are a Poor Person video, anything really above £2 million net worth is surplus wealth that somebody doesn't really need. They're never going to spend it. So, with that logic in mind, that money above the £2 million net worth of the top 1% should be fair game for taxing. So we're not abolishing tax completely, we're just making tax make sense and not be literally pickpocketing the poor, pickpocketing everyone in society. This system is fair on the rich, it's fair on the poor, and it punishes degenerates, both in the government and in the top 1% who just want to collect wealth that they do not need. For people on the lower ends of the net worth, for people with lower incomes who are nowhere near being a millionaire, 20% might sound like a lot to you, but you've got to remember what it's like to be a multimillionaire. If you have a net worth of £2 million, then 20% of that is £400,000. And for someone at a net worth of 2 million, £400,000 is basically the difference between a luxury 4-bed house and an idyllic mansion. It's significant, but it's literally just degeneracy money at that point. You don't need that idyllic 20-bedroom mansion that's basically just a giant fuck you mansion to society. A 4-bedroom idyllic house in one of the loveliest places in the country, surrounded by trees and parks and nature and everything, that will do you just fine as basically paradise for the rest of your life. So really, all this tax system is doing is this tax system here is ensuring that there is still some tax going into a small state government, but it's literally just coming out of millionaire degeneracy funds instead of coming out of the pockets of hard-working, decent people. You know, if I had a net worth over £2 million, I would accept this. I would accept giving away 400,000 to a decent government, a small state government that isn't going to fuck me over and is actually going to use that money wisely to invest back into the country that I'm living in. This system is so radical to the current status quo, but yet it's so obvious and so simple. And to go back to what I said at the beginning, you know, people are literally dogs that have been abused and they're just rolling over for their next beating. Babe, it's 4 p.m, time to give me 80% of your wealth. That's literally what's happening here. And everyone just accepts it. If you want to be rich, really one of the things we have to do first is get rid of this absolutely abhorrent pickpocketing tax system. Spread the word through word of mouth. The people want tax for non-millionaires removed.